It's my distinct pleasure to welcome our panelists, who we will introduce you shortly. And I would like to extend a particular welcome to our distinguished elders, Grandmother Helena and Dr. Mona Stonefish. Thank you for joining us today. We're deeply honored by your presence and your participation. Now I have the pleasure of welcoming to the stage Dr. Amir Asif, the Vice President of Research and Innovation at York University.
Thank you so much, Sasha. Good day, bonjour, assalamu alaikum, bonjour, and greetings to everyone joining us online. I'm delighted to be here with you all to celebrate the World Water Day through this special event jointly hosted by Aga Khan Museum and the UNITAR Global Water Academy. Aga Khan Museum is such a beautiful space. I would argue that this is the best place in Toronto and perhaps all of North America, for that matter, for Islamic art. Part of what makes the space so special is the stories it tells. Aga Khan Museum is full of narratives, illustrations, historic relics, scholarly work, and ancient pieces of arts, including stories of Muslim civilizations throughout history. Now, we tell stories in many ways, but some of the most powerful storytelling about water is told through the arts. Today's events underscore this undeniable fact and the shared reverence Indigenous and Muslim communities have for water. Water is our lifeblood on the planet. Despite the many divisions we see in the world today, I believe water, in particular, stories about water, have the power to unite us across religions, cultures, and generations. Water is essential to human life, and it truly holds special meaning in both Indigenous and Muslim communities. For many Indigenous peoples, water is sacred. It is alive. Water is not just a commodity, but a language, a community, and a source of knowledge and law. In the Cree language, water is called Nipe, which is a combination of two words, Nia Pimatiswin, meaning I am life. Indeed, First Nations people recognize the water is life and the water is alive. Quote, "We are all born out of water. In our mother's wombs, we are surrounded by water. Water is sacred. We use it in our sweat lodges, and some coastal nations take spirit baths in the oceans and rivers. Water is imperative for our health, for our lives, for the lives of all of our relatives, for all other living beings, and for our Mother Earth," unquote. In the Indigenous cultures, water is seen as a living entity with its own spirit, and it is believed that humans have a responsibility to protect and care for it. Similarly, Islam views water with significant importance, associating it with both protection and blessings. The word al-ma, water in Arabic, appears 63 times in the Holy Quran. In Islam, life and knowledge originated from water, a divine gift that symbolizes profound wisdom, the drink that quenches the soul's thirst. Water also represents purity in Islam. Water is a powerful symbol of the rebirth and quickening, and is commonly used metaphorically in the Holy Quran. Quote, "And he it is who sends the winds as heralds of glad tidings, going before his mercy, and we send down pure water from the sky, that with it we may give life to dead land and slake the thirst of things we have created, cattle and men in great numbers." Quran 25, verse 48 to 49. So you can see Indigenous and Muslims' relationships with water, although distinct, have very similar perspectives. This demonstrates the shared connection both groups have with one another, as well as the common thread water can help weave between different cultures and communities. Currently, the harsh reality is that more than 2 billion people around the world lack access to safe drinking water, including many Indigenous communities here in Canada, some even within driving distance from Toronto. The World Water Day helps spotlight this global crisis and the work that needs to be done to achieve such an ambitious target. Work that needs to be done 4 times faster, according to a UN report. This is precisely the reason why York University is so committed to the UNITAR Global Water Academy, an innovative platform for online, offline, and immersive learning to improve water management practices worldwide, provide the necessary education and training to advance SDG 6 to ensure clean water for all, and globally change our relationship to water. In fact, York University is among the top 40 universities in the world based on the Times Higher Education ranking of over 1,600 universities for its commitment to advancing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, including SDG 6, which sets out a target for world governments to achieve clean water and sanitation for all by 2030. Today's events also illustrate the growing relationship between York University and Aga Khan Museum. I look forward to future opportunities for the university and the museum to come together on projects that are a benefit to our communities. York is also pleased to co-present today's event alongside our partner UNITAR. The support from the UN Assistant Secretary General and UNITAR Executive Director, Nikhil Seth, UNITAR Division Director, Alex Mahaya, and the team in establishing the Academy is phenomenal. You can learn more about the Global Waters Academy's upcoming courses, activities, and the ways to get involved at a newly launched website, globalwateracademy.org. And we do have in the audience Professor Dr. Sapna Sharma, who is the director and has been instrumental in bringing the Global Water Academy to, in fact, it's a brain idea, and she's the one who has been able to cultivate it to the current form. In closing, I look forward to hearing from today's panelists and learning from their expertise. For the audience, I trust that the ideas and performances we take in today will ignite a call of action within you, not only to reconsider Indigenous and Muslim relationships to water, but also simulate reflection on your own personal connection to water and ways to contribute. Together, we can turn meaningful dialogue into collective action and build capacity to create positive change, so that one day, and perhaps one day in the not so distant future, we can live in a world where clean water is within reach for us all. Thank you. Merci beaucoup, miigwech.
Thank you so much, Amir. I also look forward to expanding our partnership with York University, and I think we're off to a fantastic, I wouldn't say start, but continuation. Now I have the pleasure of welcoming Alex Mejia, who is Director of the Division of People and Social Inclusion at UNITAR, which is the United Nations Institute of Training and Research, for those of you not steeped in UN acronyms.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. And if so, I have a couple of messages that I wanted to share. But first and foremost, I simply wanted to say thank you to the Aga Khan Museum, to York University, and to all the partners that join us today. I speak to you from Geneva, Switzerland, and I have given importance always to fully immerse myself in anything that will show respect, uphold, protection, and promotion of traditional indigenous and religious practices that benefit humanity. Today, it's important for me because of that. Before I give you some official remarks, I wanted to tell you that I come from Latin America. I come from Ecuador, from the Andes regions. And in the Andes region, several countries included, mine as well, we have this concept of the Pachamama that I don't know if many of you are familiar with, but if you are, let me tell you that the wisdom of our nations come from those traditional indigenous understanding of cosmos and earth. Pachamama is based on 4 Quechua traditions, the tradition that assign importance to the sun and the moon, to the earth and the water. No water, no life. So when I speak to you from Geneva, I carry with me, and I will always carry with me, the power of the knowledge of our ancestors. And I can simply express my admiration for what you are doing today. So the power of the wisdom and the knowledge of the ancestors is still alive. What a beautiful thing to see. Now, I am here also to deliver some official remarks on behalf of the United Nations at UNITAR on the occasion of this very unique event to understand the traditional indigenous and Islamic relationship to water through storytelling and the arts. The Aga Khan deserve our utmost admiration for putting this together. So allow me to say that indeed delving into the intricate relationships between traditional indigenous and Islamic cultures, knowledge and wisdom, water remains very important, and particularly the fact that we have to protect that understanding, expressing it through the medium of storytelling and artistry. This event is happening on the heels of the World Water Day. Last Friday, we had Vice President Amir Asif, President Rhonda Lenton of York University here in Geneva at the Palais des Nations in front of the diplomatic community, giving relevance to this concept of World Water Day. And I express my sincere gratitude to all of you for remembering that. The UN days, as we call them, are not only the UN priority, should be the priority of humanity. So World Water Day, in that sense, is important, and we appreciate that you also celebrate it with us. I wanted to also tell you that from our perspective, water serves as a fascinating prism through which to examine cultural practices, as every civilization through history has grappled with the challenges of securing clean water for sustenance, agriculture, and hygiene. And as I just told you before, in the case of my countries and the Inca people that I come from, it was at the center of life. No water, no life. So, exploring how different cultural groups interface with water offers profound insights into their environmental ethos, highlighting both commonalities and distinctions in their cultural outlooks. Water can also serve as a universal language, transcending cultural divides, and artistic expressions can facilitate cross-cultural connections and understanding. Last Friday, we also analyzed the recent remarks from the United Nations Secretary General, my boss, Antonio Guterres, saying that most of the world have come in recent decades to focus on water scarcity, water competition, and the potential of water to create conflict. But that we should remember that water is also one of the roots of peace, is at the center of how populations, peoples, tribes, ethnic groups have come together because they share water. So it's important to remember that water is an instrument of peace. I would also like to add, from the perspective that we have here in Switzerland and in Europe, that we believe that both North American indigenous communities and Islamic cultures harbor profound connections to water as a sacred and life-giving resource, themes which this exhibit magnificently illustrates through spiritual and cultural lenses. While specific beliefs and rituals may vary, the reverence for water stands as a poignant unifier across diverse cultures, promoting a broader societal recognition of water's sanctity could galvanize efforts toward water conservation and the restoration of aquatic ecosystem. So, to conclude, as this event was conceived also within the framework of UN World Water Day and the Iranian New Year, Nowruz, symbolizing renewal and hope at the spring equinox, we congratulate all of you, particularly distinguished participants, for taking time from your busy agendas to benefit us all today, sharing your wisdom. I tell you on behalf of the United Nations and on behalf of UNITAR that we will remain always in admiration of anything that can be done to indeed gather people like you and the audience to discuss why water is life. Thank you very much.
Now, I'd like to hand the floor to the director of the museum, Dr. Ulrike Al-Khamis, who is joining us from Alberta.
Thank you very much, everyone, and a very, very warm welcome again to this very important moment and day. Some of you might still be a little bit intrigued by the fact that we, as the Aga Khan Museum, are marking World Water Day by exploring the synergies and the stories shared between Indigenous and Muslim cultures regarding this all-unifying life force. And yet, intercultural dialogue really lies at the heart of everything we do, empowered by the vision of our founder, His Highness the Aga Khan, who stated that the museum will aim to contribute to a deeper understanding among cultures and to strengthening of pluralism, which is essential to peace and to progress in our world. At the same time, we also approach all our initiatives with the mission through the arts to spark wonder, curiosity, and understanding around Muslim cultures, their achievements, their contributions, and their interconnectedness with other cultures. And our starting point in that respect is always our art collection. We are a museum after all. And I would therefore like to briefly share two artworks from our collection to get our conversation going. The first one is a beautiful shell with religious inscriptions from 18th century India, which was probably used as a drinking vessel for spiritual healing through water. And it is not only a marker of the marine life wonders of divine creation, but it also reminds us powerfully of the sacredness and the centrality of water in Muslim lives. As Dr. Amir already mentioned, the Quran mentions water 63 times. It asserts that God has made every living being and all living creatures from water, and He provides the waters of creation and those falling from the sky for the benefit of all human beings, animals, and the natural environment at large. Human beings, meanwhile, are invested and expected to act as stewards of creation. They must honor water, they must preserve it, and they must ensure its preservation, sharing it with everyone as an act of generosity, of hospitality, and of charity. Water, of course, also lies at the very heart of Muslim rituals and religious beliefs, used for daily ablutions before prayer, imbibed in the form of Mecca's holy Zamzam water for its healing properties, and honored in architecture and landscape gardening, like in our very own Aga Khan Park, to evoke the rivers of paradise to come. The Quran also reminds us that it is God who made the sea of benefit to you. You eat fresh fish from it and bring out jewelry to wear. You see the ships cutting through its waves so that you may go in search of His bounty and give thanks. Contemplating creation is a spiritual duty, and one of the most famous manuscripts ever written to invite that contemplation is the Ajaib al-Makhluqat, the wonders of creation, first written in the 13th century by polymath Abu Yahya Zakaria al-Qazwini. Our manuscript, very unique in our collection, dates from the 16th century and comes from Shiraz in Iran. And in this work of his, he references, among other things, key aspects of the perceivable world: life in the skies, life on land, life under the sea, very much in line with some of our United Nations Sustainable Development Goals today. And in discussing those phenomena, Qazwini is not wanting to be as much scientific as he wants to invite readers to see, to contemplate, and to gain insight into the deeper meaning of creation beyond its tangible appearance. In other words, the longer one gazes and reflects beyond the seen into the unseen and into the unseeable, the more awe, respect, enlightenment, and ultimate truth with regard to all aspects of creation, including, of course, water, can be provided. On that note, I would wish you insightful conversations around Indigenous and Muslim ways of seeing water. And I would like to express my very deepest and humble gratitude to our elders, partners, panelists, and artists for their trust and for allowing us to exploring our stories together. Over to you, Sasha. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ulrike, and safe travels. Now, I'd like to welcome our panel and immediately hand over to my co-moderator, Dr. Usman Khan, who is the Civil Engineering Chair at the Lausanne School of Engineering at York University.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Sasha said, I am a civil engineer, and I'm currently the chair of our program at York University. Civil engineers have a really important role to play when it comes to water. We make sure that when you wake up every morning and you open up your tap to brush your teeth, there is clean water coming through the pipes. We also make sure that once you use the water, it's clean enough to go back into the environment. So in this way, we have a really important role in protecting our water bodies, our source water. And as a department, we're really excited to be contributing to the Global Water Academy in partnership with York and UNITAR. My role here today is to first introduce the panel and have some question and answers with the audience. I'm going to start with those of us here on stage. We have grandmother Helena Joanne Keeshig, as many of you would have seen outside leading the ceremony. We have Jessica Keeshig-Martin, who's a PhD student at York University in the Faculty of Education. And we have Sasar Zarf, who's an internationally renowned performing artist, educator, and researcher. Online, we have Dr. Mona Stonefish, who is a doctor of traditional medicine, international activist for peace, and for Indigenous, women's, and disability rights. We also have Professor Dolen Manning, a faculty member from the Department of Philosophy at Queen's University online. I'd like to start by asking everyone to sort of expand on this initial introduction. Maybe we can start with Grandmother Helena to maybe talk a bit about the water ceremony that we just had, explaining to our online audience who couldn't attend.
I was born and raised at Anishinaabe, the Chippewas of Nawash First Nation. That's my childhood home. I'm also a member of the Zagin Ojibwe Nation, which is takes in the Zagin First Nation, our sister First Nation, and the San Territory, which extends from Tobermory to Arthur, Ontario, north and south, and then east from the Nottawasaga River to Godrich. That's our territory. It's fairly big. my early remembrances and my connection to water, growing up in a family of 9 children, 4 brothers and 4 sisters. We lived without modern amenities, so we carried water. So that was probably a huge focal point for us to make sure that the water pails were filled. We got our water from a spring. And then when that ran dry, we would have to walk about a quarter of a mile to bring water up from the lake to fill up our vessels, or to our grandmother who had a pump house that we could bring water. So it was always there. I don't think when you're a child that you know or are aware of all these things that provide you with life. It was just a matter of fact. And I didn't always know my connection. Even though we grew up on a reserve, those things that make us a cultural being were never ever talked about because they weren't allowed. I don't know if you are aware of the history of the Anishinaabe people or Indigenous people across Turtle Island, that a lot of things that make us a cultural people were outlawed and banned to the point of people being incarcerated or their children being taken from them. Should we speak the language? Should we practice our culture? Those were things were forbidden. I know from my mother, I didn't know until she was gone that she was a fluent speaker, that she understood the language. She shared with me in her final year that as a child of 6 years of age, when she went to school for the first time, so she attended a day school, and she was a fluent speaker. She was speaking Anishinaabe, and when she went to school, she spoke it in the yard, in the schoolyard, and she was reprimanded for that. She was beaten for speaking her language. No one explained to her that that was not allowed. And she was beaten twice. All the years and growing up with my mother, she was so articulate in the English language that I didn't know. I thought that she was playing along with Dad because my father was a fluent speaker. And I just thought that she knew a few words, but here she understood Anishinaabe and it was in her final year that she told me her story, that she was beaten twice by the Indian agent. And the Indian agent was a non-native person put in charge of all the people living on the reserve. He was the one that had the last say in any decisions that were being made. So those things that we did today, those weren't part of my upbringing. People were afraid to talk about those things. So even understanding our connection to water was very limited in what we could share. Otherwise, we would be going to prison or being thrown in jail, or our children would be taken from us. It's only when I became a mother myself and looking for the truth for my own being, because I was raised in a Catholic church. But I knew by the time I was 13 that there was something more to life. And I knew that that way didn't belong to me. And so it took 10 years for me to find where that is that belongs to me, the original way of my people. I was 28 years old, 27 years old, when I returned to finding out about what belonged to us. And along with that came the connection to water and understanding about being a woman, even those rituals and those things that how we take care of ourselves were never shared with us. So we talked about that very fast, that those young women do. That wasn't part of my own upbringing. I wasn't raised with that understanding. It was only as a mother that I was able to, and going to ceremonies to find out those things. And even for me to have my own name, Bizanabi Kwe, that did not come until I was a young woman, already a mother with 3 children. That's how far I traveled in life before coming to finding this way, you know, that now, you know, I never look backwards, because what I found in our own way of being is what sustains me and sustains our life, that understanding that everything we need for life has already been given to us through Creator, and we just have to have that wherewithal to be able to see and to understand and to recognize what we were given. It's all here. And so I hold on to that. So in my first time becoming Medewan was my introduction to water and the water ceremonies and how to lift that and how to take care of that. And it takes time to understand, because it isn't just the lifting of the water. It's understanding the spirit of that water and how that flows. And that, you know, for us, even that, that connection to water, we talk about it as our life spirit. Today, we all face towards the east. And that, for us, that is where life flows from. The promise of creation, the promise that we were given by Creator. Gagi Geb Emadazi Win, forever life, flows from that direction. And we know that, I'm going to say this because it's true. I love women. Women are a complete being. This is how I've come to understand water. Women are complete. And when we carry life, that life is carried in water. And we know that that is a truth, the evident truth that I can hear my teacher, because he would always say that, the evident truth of what Creator gave us. And this is one of them. Women, they are beautiful. They are beautiful. And in that teaching, when she gives life, when she brings that, when she opens that doorway for life to come into the physical world, it's that water that comes first.
Thank you very much. Why don't we move online next and ask Dr. Mona Stonefish to maybe contribute as well, expand on the introduction and your relationship with water.
Okay. Salam alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Anishinaabe Oshu. Gahwani das nakas makwah dodam. Afshkuna wish andam gibi a young man pinungo, when we scouse young, when we must say young man pinishnaabe amikan. And one of the questions was, and question 3 is, what are we going to do? What should we be doing? Well, it was in 1992 that the United Nations started that World Water Day. And we as Anishinaabe, and I don't use the word indigenous because I'm Anishinaabe, I'm Bodewadami. And that's what I can speak to. And Water for Peace is a very good selection, I might add. But I want to give you an example about what's happening right now and what has been happening for a very long time. And no person on earth should be denied access to clean water. And Gaza is an extreme example of the dire water situation and what has been done thus far about that. And we have been asking and engaging with other nations around the world to walk with us as we walk for this for our mother, the earth, for the seeds. We just did we do a water ceremony every day of our life. Life itself in itself is a living example of ceremony. I woke up this morning giving thanksgiving and holding that water that a large percent of my body holds, and that I've given life to six children. And I'm old school. And I want to say that our teachings have been given to us and have been with us since time immemorial. And we hold these teachings very sacred. Apchugana du saktun mandaga mishyang, geonuk misagik kedwuk. Ich bin we milduin manda bish, where when it shkoas. Shkosin nishnabekwen, shkosin, masen mampi nishnabemikan. And you're no good to other people if you can't help yourself and to help those who need help. So my question to everyone else is, what have we done in this since October 24th, 2023 to help our relatives over in Gaza and the many, many reservations here on Turtle Island that don't have clean drinking water? We merely didn't just start today with this talk that we're having, and that we've started a long time ago. It's not just something that we do. As Anishinaabe, it's our obligation. And I agree with the similarities. I also celebrate our differences. And that's what makes the birds were flying back north, and they bring that clean air to us. The thunders have roared once more, and they've rolled three times now. Then we sang the songs for the seeds that we're about to plant. And we're hearing a lot about the water, but that has always been Anishinabe's concern. And that in our teachings, it said that that has been passed down from generation to generation. And also are some of the oldest teachings that are recorded in petroglyphs. So what are we going to do as human beings to come together? Talk is cheap and it's not good enough. We have to do something. And a lot of the similarities that I've heard thus far is about the teachings of water, the land, and then I hear a lot today about food insecurity. Well, I'll submit to you, friends, that I know how to plant, and so do my children and my great-grandchildren, and everybody that I know knows how to plant. And we give ceremony to the water. We sing for our mother, the earth, who sustains our life and who we walk on every day. And other people choose to just throw garbage or throw it in the lakes or the tributaries, the oceans. They do anything they want. Those are the people we have to reach, that we must reach. And as an Anishinaabe, it is my obligation to say these things. I don't mean to sound harsh, but it's the truth. And that has been the number one thing that has sustained Anishinaabe people. And we have something that we call Nadu, and that's spirit. And it's through that spirit, because there's good and there's bad, there's choice and consequences. And I would like to say that we rely heavily on Nadu, and water has Nadu as well, the same as I have Nadu. And all my honored friends who are sitting there on stage have Nadu as well. Otherwise, we would not have come together today to talk about such things. But we also have good minds, and we have to, academia is not everything. It is something, but traditional knowledge and academia put together, I encourage. But our traditional knowledge absolutely is an obligation. We went and we didn't send our children and our grandchildren and my great-grandchildren to go to university to learn how to be Anishinaabe. We learned that from home. We learned that from our grandmas. And John A. MacDonald decided that they were going to make a change with that in the churches, and decided that they wanted to take the Anishinaabeness. At the time they called us Indians, then they called us Aboriginals. Now they're calling us Indigenous. Well, we're all indigenous to someplace. I'm Anishinaabe. So we need to clearly define what people are talking about when they're saying indigenous. You could be indigenous to another country, but and those as human beings we can celebrate our similarities, and it's true that we all breathe, we all eat, we all love, we all hurt. But one thing is for sure, and our point of view and worldview is that as sure as we take that last breath, or as sure as we take that first breath, we take that last breath. And we celebrate both. And we celebrate life. We celebrate the water. We celebrate the planting of the seeds. We celebrate when we're harvesting. And there's no shame. And I raised that water this morning, as I do every day. And when it's time for me to go to sleep at night, I'm able to sleep and to rest my body and to sleep a good night's sleep and to get up again.
I'll move back onto stage, and maybe Sasar, you can introduce yourself and talk about your practice and your relationship with water as well.
Sure. My name is Sasar Zarf. I think I should say I'm an artist. I always hesitate to say that. I'm just a human being trying to find myself and then share that journey with others, that search. How I came to find a deeper connection to water was when I arrived to Canada and I started my dance practice. Well, I studied engineering first, and then I decided that I want to be a dancer.
Good combination.
And I did my dance practice, and I was doing traditional dance, traditional Azerbaijani dance, and I put together a dance group here. And my dance group fell apart when all the kids grew up and went to university and started working in different places, and I was alone again. And I didn't know what to do. I was on a crossroad. I had to either assimilate to the dance community or acculturate or preserve and become part of this preservation journey. And I didn't want to do any of those. So I started searching to see if there's another way. And I came across the poetry, Sufi poetries. And I realized how timeless they are. So when you read Rumi's poetry, it doesn't matter when you read it in history, you can connect to it. So I thought that, well, this can guide me forward. And I was in Kyrgyzstan in Central Asia, and I was visiting an elder. And she asked me why I'm so always thinking and so restless. And I said, because I'm trying to find myself. And I want to know who I am. And she said that Akan suda aram yok means there is no haram, there is no impurity in running water. So that, and she explained to me that identity is a process. You don't need to belong because the moment you arrive, then you might as well die, she said. You need to be on the road. Yolda gerek. The traveler needs to be on the road always. So I created a dance called Water Go Rivering, and I explored the idea of the wisdom in the water. And I came across the Sufi rituals across the Islamic societies. My area of research is Sufi and shamanic rituals amongst the Islamic societies. And I realized that in some rituals, Sufi rituals that are connected to shamanic practices in Central Asia, there are three faculties that they work together. One is the mind, the words and the poetry. And the other one emotionalizes these words, and that's the music. So they sing the words, they sing the poetry. And then eventually they need to actualize it and realize it. So that means they dance it, they move with it. So all three of them creates one full wholesome experience of also. And in those, they refuge the elements, the water, the fire, the air, and the earth. So they start with water. And I have a production here. We opened last night, and we're going to do it today as well. This production is actually based on this four elements, and the 4 Wednesdays, the last 4 Wednesdays of winter, working towards spring. And the last 4 Wednesdays of winter, the fourth last Wednesday is Wednesday of water. They start with the element of water. And they refuge to water, the wisdom of water, to have a mind like water. And they refuge to the third last Wednesday is the Wednesday of fire, the soul that needs to have a fire of a longing for union. And they believe that if you have a longing for union, if you believe that you're part of this universe, then you have that intention of respecting the water because you are water. You are part of that. And the second last Wednesday is the Wednesday of air. And it has to associate that with emotions that help us navigate life. And the last Wednesday of the year is the Wednesday of earth. That is this body, that is a home for the soul on this earth to expand and find the unlimited developments of humanity, the humanness, how far we can go, and they believe a lot of these traditions. They believe that we are an ocean in a drop, not really a drop in an ocean. So we need to find that ocean within us. So my connection to idea of water and respecting water is that we need to kind of find the water within us and respect that connection, that we are part of the whole. And that itself promotes the idea of stewardship rather than ownership, so that we can actually not feel separate from it, that we have to own it. We are part of it. And obviously in Sufi rituals, the whole intention is longing for union, for that union to arrive to that place that we all feel the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sasar. I'll go to Jessica next to introduce herself and talk about her relationship with water.
Ani, can you hear me through the mic? Ani?
Yes.
Ani Bojo, Badabano Kwe, Jessica, Keeshig-Martin, Anishinaabe, Maingan Binwa Makwa Dodam, Nia Shinigaming and Donjiba. My name is Jessica. My Anishinaabe name is Padabanokwe, or Morning Woman. And I am a member of the Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation, a few hours drive north of here on the Saugeen Peninsula, or also known as the Bruce Peninsula, and Saugeen Ojibwe Nation territory. As Anishinaabe, we're also part of the Three Fires Confederacy, and there's groups within that, the Potawatomi, Odawa, and Ojibwe peoples. And Anishinaabe people, we have, as a nation, territory that expands around the Great Lakes as far as Alberta, northern parts of the Great Lakes into Quebec, and southern part of the Great Lakes into Michigan, Wisconsin. We also call North America Turtle Island. And so Turtle Island, if you look at a map, you can see the turtle. So the tail being Mexico, the head being the Arctic, and you can see some of its body coming out of, Alaska, one of its legs. I am a mother, and I've done and participated and helped plan water walks along with Bizanabikwe and canoe journeys around the circumference of our territory. And as mentioned, I'm a PhD student at York University, just writing my dissertation. My research looks at our philosophies as an Anishinaabe on love, free, prior, and informed consent, and land back in our earth caretaking systems. I just wanted to also acknowledge the elders and speakers here, and thank to Aga Khan for inviting us here today, and acknowledge the Haudenosaunee and Mississaugas of the Credit Anishinaabe territory. And the treaties, we're all treaty people. We're all, subject to ensuring that we live in coexist in harmony and respect the teachings of the land. So love is a part of my research, and it's a important philosophy for Anishinaabe people. We, often in the mainstream sort of space, we think of love sort of in a romantic or family type of love, but for Anishinaabe people, we also expand that love to Mama Aki, the earth, Nebema Nado, the water, and all of the animal beings, all of creation. And so we're not, as human beings, seen as, above anything else here on earth. We're all equal. We all have a role in the world. And so, that needs to be acknowledged and respected through our perspectives. We have a reciprocal relationship with the earth and the water. We see the water as a living being and our oldest ancestor. And so the water, Nibim Nado, has rights. She is a being. We listen to her, we communicate with her, we sit in ceremony, we pray for her. And on those water walks, we honor her. We have some fellow water walkers here with us that participated in a water walk around the circumference of our territory over a month. And it's a hard thing to do. It's, takes time out of your life, out of the year. And it's a lot of work. It's walking every day from sunrise to sunset. And it's the water that brings us together, and it brings those kinship relationships. And it's a shared goal to honor and pray for the water in those water walks. As been talked about, we've been, and as Anishinaabe here in Turtle Island, we've been, invaded. Colonization has happened here. Oppression has happened here. And there used to be a time where our people used to be able to drink water just right from the lake or right from the streams. However, in the Chippewas of Nawash and Cedar First Nation, we're under a boil water advisory and have been for the last several years. We're currently a new water treatment plan and a new water distribution system is under construction. However, there's even a few people that won't receive clean water in that construction once that's completed. So there'll have to be another phase, and there's a lot of resources and funding that need to be assured so that it can continue and continuously be maintained over the years. I think that was one of the big issues of where we got to a boil water advisory is, the lack of infrastructure, the lack of funding that Canada does not provide to First Nations to be able to ensure that they have clean water within their communities. And, I think that we have a right to have clean water and be able to, drink again from the lakes and streams. I know we depend here a lot on Lake Ontario, and it's sad we can't even go swimming in Lake Ontario at Woodbine Beach. There's always an advisory happening there. So there's a lot of work to do to ensure that there's clean water. And I just wanted to highlight too the work of Indigenous peoples globally and the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And in that document, it talks about Indigenous peoples requiring their free, prior, and informed consent before projects happen within our territories. And I think that's something that we continuously need to be advocating for. We have a nuclear power plant in our territory that sucks in an Olympic-sized swimming pool every 7 seconds into the facility. And then it puts the water back out into Lake Huron at a higher temperature. And with, also the risks of, all that come with the nuclear power that might potentially have an impact on the lake. And so the projects that are coming out of nuclear development and it continuously developing in our lands and territories, Indigenous peoples have to be part of those decisions again. We have to be asserting and exercising our jurisdiction and authority and ensuring that our right to consent on these projects is recognized and to ensure that we have a role in what goes on in our territory and what cannot happen because of those major impacts to the water. In terms of stories, I think about, I was reading some of the documents that were provided ahead of this panel, and what stood out to me was this teaching of walking gently. And so I think about our creation stories, and near the end of our creation stories, after the universe was created and the earth was created, there's a part of it that talks about Nana Bojo being lowered down to the earth. And Nana Bojo is also spirit and human. And so when Nana Bojo was being lowered to the earth, they pointed their toes because they didn't want to, very reluctantly be lowered to the earth and have an impact on any living being or creature on the earth. So they when they reached the earth, they were, on tiptoes and walked very gently on that earth. So I think about that teaching and that connection. So, miigwech.
Thank you very much, Jessica. Okay, we'll move back online to Professor Dolen Manning to give an introduction and say something about your connection with water as well.
Bonjour. Bonjour. Tisawiashi minua, jikegewe gabo kwa dishnakash, jikando dem, ajudana njabajig. Miigwech for having me. I'm excited to be in this conversation, sharing Anishinaabe philosophies that connect to Islamic water stewardship as well. I could see for sure lots of connections. Also, I agree with Mona Stonefish that we also have to be that well, I guess I would say I agree with our language and our philosophies that are anywhere from 70 to 90% different people estimations that our languages are primarily verb-based, which is to say we also embrace and difference, and we honor that difference as well. As I'm also Ojibwe Potawatomi Anishinaabe from Kettle and Stony Point, which is Kikonong, Minwa, Jigig, Minwa, Ajudanon, First Nations. As a people who know ourselves as part of the land and the water, my home community on the shore of Lake Huron, that is, sorry, I'm actually sick. I've taken lots of medication, so I should be okay. Sorry. Here, my home community on the shore of Lake Huron is entangled and interrelational to the ways that land and water move and negotiate. So there, like many of us are, well, in fact, I think all of us here who are from on this panel, the Anishinaabe, are all live on shores. But that's when we introduce ourselves, right? We often say in English, my name, my home, my this, my. It's all about ownership. What we're actually saying is that this is who I am, and that who I am is precedes us. It is Nado. It's our oneness with the world, and that who I am is not an ownership, but an acknowledgement of all that I am, and these are all that I am is being comprised of all of existence simultaneously, and that these are our teachers, and that our elders. So when I say this is who I am, like when I talk about where I'm from, even the Kikonong and Ajudanon, it's a description. Their translation into English would be a description of the land and how the land, the water, and air meet and interact and negotiate one with the other, and those are the ways in which we, as the youngest beings who come here to Earth, are to look to the world as our teachers, to help us define our accountability, our responsibilities, our governance structures.
I'd like to invite up the inaugural director of the UNITAR Global Water Academy, Professor Sapna Sharma.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. Sasha Priva and Dr. Usman Khan for moderating this session. And thank you to our panelists. I think all of us are very honored and humbled that you spent the day with us here today to share your wisdom, your just advice for us to move forward as well. So I want to thank you for sharing that and for being with us here today. Thank you also to the museum staff for all of your hard work, leadership, and vision. The idea for this event was born back in December, and all of us have been working very hard to see this event come to fruition. And I'm absolutely thrilled to have been part of this and to learn from you here today. So thank you for that. And I just wanted to thank our fabulous team at the Aga Khan Museum, UNITAR, and York University for organizing and planning the many details for this event. I also wanted to extend my sincere gratitude to Dr. Priva and Dr. Al-Khamis here at the Aga Khan Museum. They both have been pivotal in helping to foster York University's close institutional relationship with the museum for some time now. We've been meeting regularly to discuss the potential to partner on several exciting projects that would allow for greater cross-cultural exchange, dialogue, knowledge mobilization, and new teaching and learning opportunities for artists, students, researchers, scientists like myself, and not to mention museum visitors. On a final note, I would like to thank everyone who came out today here in person, and to all of us who joined us on the live stream online from all over the world. Thank you for being part of our event. And for those interested in future UNITAR Global Water Academy events, we will be hosting our next panel on plastic pollution on May 2nd. And you can visit our newly launched online platform, globalwateracademy.org, to take part in our events and our hybrid offerings. May we continue to work together across our many communities to protect the planet's freshwater supply and make progress on ensuring universal access to clean water. Thank you.
And I'd like to quickly add my thanks. It's been an absolute joy, Sapna, working with you and the team and with all to bring this together. And of course, another fruit of the collaboration is also visible outside. We have a wonderful, for those of you who are in this room, but online as well, there's a website on the museum website. There's information on an arts installation by Professor Manning, but also Mona Stonefish was heavily involved in it, and Professor Bunch as well, that literally takes you into the cosmos in a bubble of water, into the concept of Nido. And I encourage you to check it out. If you'd like to hear more from Sasar, at 3:30, he's back with a talk, and then at 5 with a performance. And I hope you can join us for that. And with that, I'll thank you all for being here. Thank you for those of you joining us online, and thank you so much to our speakers.